It's time for the Pat and Patty Show, starring Patty Smith and Pat Hughes. Welcome to the Pat and Patty Show, and you're
Patty
Smith.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
my last name is Smith.
And I'm Pat Hughes, and we're sitting here, and take us to this camera, whichever camera we need to go to. You had your feelings hurt.
Well,
did you not? I had my feelings hurt. I don't wear no pink panties.
I know. Well, no, I didn't really have my feelings hurt. I was excited to know that I was a lesbian or whatever. I forget. But isn't lesbian and the opposite of each other? I really was so confused by that.
Well, let's put it this way: you can't account for taste, and we'll probably have to go to a bleep bleep or cock-a-doodle-doo.
Well, but the interesting thing about that whole event was that when we were talking about the chicken, in my mind, the word that I was searching for was rooster. I could see the rooster. I could see a picture of a rooster in my head, but I could not get that word to come out my voice. And suddenly I saw the cockcomb on top of his head, and I said cock, and I knew it was kind of a racy word, so I tried to make light of it. But for some reason, there's one really twisted and sick individual that watched it that decided that of the 9 definitions of the word cock in the dictionary, being the gamecock, the different definitions, the rooster, whatever, the very last one was the one he went for. Interesting how that sick and twisted mind devolved to the lowest common denominator.
Well, I think that he does protest too much type of situation.
Yeah,
apparently, that was on his mind.
That's what I think. I think you accuse, when you have no factual information and you accuse others of something, it's because that's something you do, so you just assume everybody does. But I mean, the thought of me, I was excited though to think that I was because in reality, I'm a born-again virgin here in Paulding County, and I'm telling you that if every man in the world was like that guy, I would definitely decide to go for lesbianism.
I understand. Well, we actually had some news this past week. The one that kind of was amazing to me was the idea that we were going to, we had 32 deaths. 32 people died of drug overdose.
I read that.
Including heroin. I mean, actually I kind of created a piece. I know that you've not seen it yet, but it was called "This Ain't Mayberry No More."
It hadn't been for a long time.
Well, that's probably true, but let's take a look at that.
Okay.
Last week, Sheriff Gullidge wrote an open letter to the citizens of Paulding County, pointing to as many as 32 deaths directly attributable to opiate overdoses from both prescription drugs and heroin.
Hi, Barn.
How's the fishing?
Fine. How's everything around here?
Busy.
Busy doing what?
All different things.
Well, what?
Oh, phone, the mail, filing, cleaning up, the phone, taking out the trash. Seems like that trash gets heavier every week.
Yeah, you're into Barney there, aren't you? Tell me he wasn't wired on some sort of drug, was it? Yeah, we're going to Mount Pilot do some cocaine. Then we'll come down and smoke some opie. There are drugs in Mayberry, I'm telling you. Floyd the barber was the dealer, I'm convinced. They hung out in that barbershop. What drug was Floyd on? Here, try some of this, Andy. I'm toasted, Andy.
Paulding County ain't Mayberry no more. These deaths came to teens, folks in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and older. It is, in the words of the sheriff, a serious problem. But there is help.
I think that we have a lot of good efforts going on in Paulding County. We've got this effort, and this effort, and this effort, and this effort, and I don't think that we're at odds with each other. I just think we don't know about each other, And instead of being disjointed, we need to be like this. We need to be working together. And I think that's the thing that you're planning, that you believe that you're planning. What's the date of it again?
May the 9th.
May the 9th. Every effort in Paulding County needs to be at that.
Amen.
Together. We
Amen.
all need to be there. Now, talk to me. How are you all feeling?
We need to get the sheriff, the DAs, the lawyers. We need to change our heart to, instead of catching them, locking them up, letting them out, catching them, locking them up, letting them out. We need to give them an opportunity to get clean and sober. I know that everybody out there on drugs, some of them made a choice to go get on drugs. Some of them didn't. Today, the doctors are giving out 2 powerful pain pills, and they're getting hooked on it. And then their body's getting physically addicted to the point where they have to go and get the heroin. Well, they don't have to, they got a choice. Well, until you've been hooked on Roxycontins or heroin, then don't say that. Paulding County is in a desperate need. We have tried a few years ago to try to locate a home over here. And to be quite honest, I was told I'd have a better chance of hitting the lottery. So we need to change everything from the get-go to where we want to help. I've been hearing that people try to get help and there's no help. Free. But the first things first, we got to be able to give them an opportunity. Drug court, or at least the DAs would talk to us about the people that they think needs help, or crying for help, or screaming for help. So we could go step in and say, all right, Your Honor, I know they got jammed up with a bunch of drugs, but can we give Jesus a try? Everything you've done over the past, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and I'm not knocking the county, I'm not knocking how it's doing, I'm just saying it's time to make a change. Paulding County is suffering badly, and I don't believe that there's not enough help. A few Celebrate Recoveries and the AA meetings and all that, you know, I'm not saying, you know, that's a lot of times it takes more than that. It takes a place for them to go, get away from the stuff, learn them how to live, learn them how to, a lot of them don't know the Lord Jesus Christ as a personal Savior, but it's going to take, we just keep sending them to jail, and they know when they get out of jail, they come back, all they got to come back to is what they've always known. And if we don't make a change, nothing's going to change, and they're going to continue to die. I preached a funeral in December of a 41-year-old. I preached a funeral of a 47-year-old in January. I think the statistics are 19 died on that heroin in Paulding County. These teenagers are dying on Paulding County. One of the boys that died, his graduating school class, I think there's been 21 died. He was 22 years old. So Devil's got 21 of them. Well, they shouldn't do it. Well, no, they shouldn't. They should go to church and they should do this, yeah, but they didn't. So now we're stuck with what we're gonna do.
I, as a professional counselor, I can provide people with a wealth of research that says if we want to stop recidivism, if we want to stop people returning to jail, we're going to stop it with treatment. We're not going to stop it with
Amen.
punishment.
Amen.
So that's critical. And we have a lot of good efforts going on, but it's a process. Somebody often needs to go from an inpatient, and you're talking about being there, and I don't know if inpatient is the right term to use, but a secure situation into the community programs like Celebrate Recovery and AA and those kind of things.
And argue.
Right, exactly. Into the kind of programs that we do here as well. People often say, how do I quit using drugs? How do I quit drinking? And that's easy. You quit calling the dope man and you quit going to the liquor store. What's not easy is how do I live without that coping mechanism? And that's what you learn in places like you're talking about. It takes some people 6 months to learn it. It takes some people 5 years to learn it. It takes some people can learn it in individual therapy, but we are not banded together. And we need to be banded together so that we can refer to each other. The churches are a huge piece. The community is a huge piece. The schools need to address it. We're backed up to the sea, and we're about to go off into the ocean if we don't get some rescue going on. And we have the capacity to do that because we got a lot of good stuff going on.
Amen.
But we just aren't connected.
Because addiction, drugs, alcohol, all these things are kind of like closet issues that nobody wants to speak about, nobody wants to address, nobody wants to bring to the forefront, and we don't even show as a community or as a church or as an organization that we are trying to address this before it becomes a relevant thing. Because a lot of young people I've spoke to who've been battling this or fighting against different addictions is they just didn't know. And so they got involved, and the next thing that they knew, they couldn't go without, and it's a cycle that leads on into it. And so as I'm sitting here and I'm listening and I'm thinking, oh, this is great, I'm wondering what the potential to go a step farther and unify the churches, the organizations, to say, you know, we're not just going to put this in the back file, but instead we want to, you know, be open about how we are giving an education to what addiction is doing to lives. And
Exactly, Chris. You're aware, Chris, that about a year and a half ago, we did that series of seminars at the Methodist Church here. And I went in and did 4 seminars. And the first night I talked about why don't they just quit? And we invited people to come, not people who were necessarily in addiction or had families who were in addiction, but just people who wanted to know about it. And of course I went on to explain what you just said. I said they don't quit because they can't at that level. By the time it gets to be a huge family problem, the person with the addiction, and by the way, we don't say addict, we don't say alcoholic here, we call people with addictions, and that's important to me. I don't know if that's important to anybody else, but in a way of thinking, I think it's important. But we talked about how the person has to have some serious intervention, some help from programs like Jacob's been talking about, and from the programs that we do here, from the churches. There has been a kind of a territorial thing about how we help people. I assure you, Paulding County has enough people in addiction to go around.
Amen.
We could all fill our programs up and we would still have enough. So we need to make a unified effort on that, and we need to educate people that with information, Chris. I mean, when I start talking about the genetic link, people have a predisposition, therapists say, to becoming addicted. We can take 2 people who match each other drink for drink and drug for drug, and one of them be 30 years old and say, I'm done now, and they can walk away and never think about it because they weren't genetically loaded. But if that other person has a grandfather or a grandparent who suffered from an addiction, it's highly likely that they're genetically loaded and they're not going to stop without some serious intervention.
Amen. People don't understand when you go get a rotator cuff fixed, that when they give you a bottle of Roxycontin, when you take that bottle of Roxycontin and then you get another bottle and you take that, you are absolutely just sold your soul to the devil, so to say. Not really, if you're saved, you can't do that. But you know, once you do that, you get physically addicted to that drug, and then you got to have it. It's not like, well, bless God, just tell them to quit. It's not like that. If you've never done it, then you can't say, but it's bad. And that's where our dope dealers today is. The doctors are giving these pills out too freely. And it's getting them started. That's part of it. The other part of it is, you know, you just got, there's no consequences for our actions.
Good.
You get caught selling drugs and, you know, you end up getting caught enough that you go to prison. You go to prison, you come back, nothing changes. People are coming back from prison and they're going right back to what they're doing. And why? Well, they shouldn't do it. No, they shouldn't do it, but there needs to be help available at all times. And if they don't want it, then they can go to prison, but at least have it there.
About the 3-strand cord, and this is my own thinking as a clinical person, and I've worked in the prisons, men and women's prisons in Louisiana. I've probably worked with almost 1,000 people in addiction now, and I have come to this conclusion: it takes 3 things in order for somebody to get in recovery and stay in recovery. First of all, they've got to learn about the disease. People do not understand what's happening in their bodies. They have to learn about the disease and examine the trauma that may have happened in their past. That's the clinical piece. They've got to get with other people, like Jacob, who have been there. I'm not able to tell anybody how it feels, that I know how it feels to desire a drug. I've never done an illegal drug in my life. So as a clinician, I've got to find people that can talk to them about how it feels, and they can look at that person and say, if that man can get sober, I can get sober. And finally, in my opinion, I believe they have to make a spiritual change. And in my way of thinking, that spiritual change is the power of Christ behind us. That has got to happen. I've not ever seen a single soul get sober and stay sober without that. So.
My thanks to Chris, Ann, and Jacob for their expertise. Because all I know is this ain't Mayberry no more. Back to the Pat and Patty Show. That was sobering.
I'm telling you, Pat, it's scary, really.
Yeah, the one thing that I do note is I've got a new neighbor here at Paulding.com's office, which is Ann Pennebaker, and she is You ever heard of Angola Prison in Louisiana? It's kind of like on the list of prisons that you don't want to go to.
Okay.
Like number 2 or 3, maybe even number 1.
All of them are number 1 on my list.
Well, I can appreciate that, but I mean, even amongst the people that are aficionados of prison, this one is the one that they want to avoid.
Okay.
She was a counselor and whatever, and has shown some because of the number of people that are incarcerated because of drugs and abuse. She is actually the story she tells is that she had an awakening, and basically God told her to come to Georgia, and she didn't know what for, and ended up marrying George, and George is helping her help people.
Really?
Yeah, out of
get over drug addiction.
Yeah. She actually treats people for free.
Oh wow, that is so great.
If they've got the thing, and treats families and the whole bit. I also saw. I actually sat down with them, and part of the video you probably saw had some of that material in it.
Well, that's
I
great.
intend on doing
we need
some
more people like her.
You know, the fact that I think one of the real key things that we're looking at in this, though, is the fact that Paulding County needs to get with the times.
Oh, no kidding.
Because really, there are elements like drug courts.
I've read a lot about
that
those.
We don't have. That
I know.
That they're resisting, as I understand it.
Don't want to come into the modern world.
I understand, and you know, even halfway houses. Though I took objection to a halfway house ordinance that passed during Jerry Sharon's administration in 2005. I want to say 2006. That basically outlawed any halfway house of any sort, which would include places for kids with autism or disabilities, as
because
well as
we don't want those kind of people in our
here.
neighborhood,
Exactly.
right? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And,
even though they are those kind of people.
Actually, what 32 deaths in a county this size, considering that most people don't die of this, tells you that it's pretty doggone rampant. In fact, I've had a lot of reports that suggest that it is more rampant and a greater problem than any of us.
I'm telling you, Pat, I
imagine.
can't understand the opposition to this drug court. I just can't, because it helps people get off drugs. It helps them turn their lives around. It keeps them out of the for-profit jails, and it keeps families together.
Okay, yeah. I mean, you hit it.
That seems important to me.
What? Sending people to for-profit jail? That's
for-profit prisons. Yeah,
that's it. That's
for-profit. I mean, they won't be happy until we're all in prison.
Well, Oh well.
Oh well.
You do have your opinion.
Well, I mean, if you make a profit off prisoners, then it seems to me you want more and more and more and more prisoners.
Well, that's only the stockholders. The problem is that it's so expensive to do it that way. It's ridiculous. I think we were talking a little bit earlier about homeless people. Of course, we sure don't want them to go to jail. We don't want to help them. We don't want to
help them.
But they've discovered in Salt Lake City, Utah,
and in Los Angeles recently.
That involved veterans.
That was veterans, but
that it's cheaper to house these people and give them a good place to stay, even if they're not getting straight, even if they're doing continuing not to be perfect individuals.
It lowers crime.
Yep.
It lowers crime. It helps. It saves money on putting people in jail. It gives them an opportunity to have a life, to earn an income, to buy products, to spend money in the store.
To get their heads straight.
To be a functioning citizen.
People actually care about me. I'm not a lost soul.
Yes.
I have hope. Actually, that's the name of one of the things that's coming up in May here is hope. And it's a loss of hope, and it's a matter of instilling hope in people.
It seems to me, Pat, to be the Christian thing to do.
Well, we all understand that the Christian thing to do is not always what happens.
No, it usually isn't what happens.
In fact, I think we were also on another tangent where we were talking about people talking about our show even. And the fact that why do we do this?
Why do we do
I mean,
why? Why are you doing that? Well,
you were the one that's asking them. They know I'm just crazy, and I got this thing and I want to play.
I know. You've got this great studio. I wasn't aware there was such a studio in all of Paulding County. Oh, except for the overly priced movie studio. But here you have this fabulous little studio, and it's like a playground for me. I've done this kind of thing all of my life. It's like, why not do it? Why not? None of the other people in the Stop the Airport movement, they tossed me out because they didn't want to play. They didn't want me to play in their sandbox anymore. And you kindly invited me to come play in your sandbox. And to me, Pat, that's the whole point of life, is to be able to deal with people that you may not agree on every issue, but you can still treat each other with respect, and you can be kind and decent and do the Christian thing.
Yeah, you can't get a smart ass comment here, but that's okay. That's okay. It's cool.
No, I'm being serious.
Yeah, no,
I mean, I like you more than I like some of them,
Even though we oppose each other.
Exactly. Even though we disagree on so many things, you can disagree people without being disagreeable or thinking that the other person is some kind of monster because they don't agree with you.
Yeah. What you try to do is you try to get common ground, and you recognize that you're not always going to get your way. Now that is, I know, a revolutionary idea that you don't get your way.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty much used to it.
Yeah, me too.
But before we leave the subject, I would like people to know that if you have this idea and you want to come on and talk about your way of doing things, and if you want to sit there and say, I'm a real American and I believe that if it's my way or the highway, that hell, come on, I don't care. I mean, I believe that people ought to have the right freedom of speech. I mean, in fact, when they were talking about pink panties and whatever on the thing, there was, well, he's going to kick me off. I don't care.
Really?
Gee.
Grow up.
Hey, look, this skin's pretty doggone thick.
Listen, I've put up for 13 months with the veiled insults about gimme-crats on the stop page, the private page, where they feel they can be more honest about their feelings, and it was name-calling all the time about anybody that wasn't just like them. And I found it kind of revolting. So, in a way, I was relieved when
It's
they tossed
limiting.
me.
It's definitely limiting. And,
But yet they see themselves as the very finest kind of people.
Actually, one of the aspects of education, and it's one of the reasons I think that probably they're trying to give away the free education, all that sort of stuff, is that education teaches you that, hey, this world is a wonderful place.
Yes.
And it's very diverse, and
Yes.
you should relish and
You
love
should embrace the diversity.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
That's when you find the most interesting people. You find more interesting ideas, and you can converse with people and learn new things. It's wonderful to meet people different from you. But in this neck of the woods, if you're different, you gotta go.
Birds of a feather, they flock together. Anyway, we're working on a number of things. I know, for instance, that Thursday there's going to be a fellow from the Georgia Film Office at the Chamber of Commerce luncheon.
That will be very interesting.
And they're going to be talking about, hey, how do you find, how do you get your house or your property listed for being a location for a movie shoot? Which would, having those type of facilities here as well as the studio would be a community thing to do, to come together and say, hey, we need to, if you can shoot your remote stuff at the same place you're doing your studio stuff and it's all cool, it makes for a better pitch for the community. And it says that, you're basically on board with this, making the best that you can of this public investment in the studio. And I don't see anything wrong with that. You can actually disagree with the whole idea and still be on board.
Well, I mean, I thought I went to the groundbreaking of the movie studio back when, and they talked about that, about registering, going to the whatever the film the website was.
Yeah, the head honcho of that is supposed to be speaking.
To register your property for availability for filming. And I was going to do it, and I don't know what the heck happened. Maybe I started packing my bag and then changed my mind again. But I thought it was a great idea, and even though I think the movie studio was a really stupid idea, and poorly run and still costing the taxpayers a fortune. But if it's here and there are people filming, why not? I mean, you won't make much off letting them rent your property, but what the heck?
Yeah, and you'll have a claim to fame.
Oh, yes.
Especially if it's a good movie.
Probably won't be, though.
Well,
most movies
yeah.
nowadays aren't that good.
Well, we all try to make them, make them anyway. But there are other things going on. Obviously, the sheriff's office was in the news with the 32 drug deaths, but there's also an issue that's coming up involving a lawsuit. We don't know whether it'll be settled or not or what it is, but it's a federal lawsuit that involves sheriff's office and that sad moment in 2012. I think it was summer of 2012 when Danny Hammett was shot during the execution of a search warrant. And I've read both. I've read through most of the GBI report. The case has been closed as far as criminal case by the GBI.
And no harm, no indictments.
There were no indictments, and
no harm, no foul, except for the dead guy.
Well, all I can say is that I'm having a hard time piecing some of that together. I will say that the lawsuit claims lack of training and kind of a Keystone Cop. They portray it as a Keystone Cop experience.
Oh my God!
At the scene where, of course, we know that there were no one with a gun, but basically the first shot resulted in multiple shots, including the fatal shot. And
but the man who was shot, who was killed, didn't have a weapon, never fired a shot.
He had a bottle of OC.
OC being the pepper spray.
Yeah.
And that can certainly be painful, no doubt about it.
But he wasn't but like 5'3". He wasn't a real big guy at all.
And he heard somebody coming into his house. I'm telling you, after listening to this story, I'm thinking if anybody breaks into my house in the middle of the night, instead of grabbing the gun and running down the hall to protect myself, I'm just going to lay there and hope it's the cops instead of a robber,
Yeah.
Because if you come out of your bedroom in the middle of the night with your gun in your hand to protect yourself, you're going to get killed.
I don't know. You might drop your drawers, grab your cheeks, and
spread it goodbye.
And spread it because they would. I mean, you gotta. If they came in and they saw that, they would probably laugh instead of shoot.
Yeah, well, maybe I'll try that.
Okay. But
it would be a moment to remember, at any rate.
Yeah, and you're at least playing ostrich in terms of your body language.
And if they shoot you in the ass instead of the back, maybe no vital organs will be hit.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be better.
But there will be a lawsuit, and we don't know what's going to come out of it. I can tell you that the
lawsuit's been filed. You say already?
The lawsuit has been filed. It was filed, my recollection, on October 18th. 2014, which is not that long ago. That's like 3 or 4 months ago, right?
And this is a lawsuit against the Paulding County Sheriff's Department.
Paulding County Sheriff's Office, the Drug Task Force, and the sheriff and the individuals that were involved in the shooting.
Well, we'll have to keep an eye on that.
And we'll be looking at that probably more. And speaking of that, the sheriff will be at the Paulding County Business Association next Thursday, or not this Thursday, but a week from Thursday. And we'll be speaking to them. I don't know what his topic is, but he will be speaking on to all of us, and I'll be videotaping that particular event for presentation to. Actually, it'll be on Channel 23, among other things. So, and as we go back to one of the burning questions of why do we do this, and I don't want it to be perceived as us just ranting on and rolling on.
Go ahead.
Why we do this? Because it's something to do. Because we can. I mean, that's it's an opportunity. Well, you heard the old story about the dog. Why does he lick himself?
Oh, okay. Because he can. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, and I was asked that question yesterday. Why? Yeah. Why are you doing this? And I was like, well, because it's fun. I used to have a cable access show in South Florida where I got to talk about what I wanted to talk about, and I enjoyed doing it. And it's, to me, I wanted that campaign that I got involved with to be something, at least that's what I told Todd when he came and sat at my kitchen table talking me into running against you. I said, Todd, what I think we need to do, since there's no chance I'm going to win, we need to go like a little dog and pony show during the summer months and explain to people about these issues. Go to schools, to senior citizens, to churches, wherever people will gather and let us talk to them. And let's explain to them what these issues are that are facing the county. I saw it as an opportunity to educate the electorate on the important issues facing us. But that, it didn't work out that way. So to me, that's what this show is about. I mean, the first two shows were...
I'm going to say one thing. First of all, it's not about educating them because they're educated people and whatever. It's about talking about it and saying things so that we can... it's okay to talk about some of this stuff.
Right. Well, to understand the issues, some people, because there is no local news media except your site and the Dallas New Era, but most,
there's also the Neighbor and
well, of course, I'm sorry, I forgot the Neighbor, but there's not any like TV station that you can go and learn about the issues in facing us so much as there was in Atlanta.
There's also a thing, and you got to put on a hat, and it doesn't make any difference what kind of hat. I've got some hats here you can wear. I've got a bowler. I've got a what's that thing that's up there?
The election hat.
Yeah, the election hat. That's
like a straw hat.
Yeah, okay, a straw hat, and I got another straw hat, and I got what is that? A sombrero.
Yeah.
I got another hat in there, but you can bring your own hat, and that's the only thing is you got to wear a hat, and you can come and do whatever editorial you want within 3 minutes. You got a 3-minute limit. I'll videotape you, and I'll put you on the Pat and Patty show as doing the editorial. You can make it a joke. You can make it whatever you want. You can say something serious.
Wow.
You could be serious if you wanted to. But
I find being serious is not what it's cracked up to be.
All you want to do is sell your house and go to Tuscany.
Yeah.
I know.
Get out of Dodge.
Well, what we got to realize is there's a time to come and a time to go.
And what time is it now, Mr. Pat? It's time to go.
My God.
And some in our audience are saying,
Two, yes.
adios.